The story begins in the remote village of Agashur, where a woman gives birth to twins, but the village chief realizes they're part of a prophecy which mentions that they'll control powerful demons and divide the day and the night. 16 years later, we see one of the twins named Yuru as he hunts in the forest, but he notices trails left by dragons in the sky. He returns to the village where his friend Danji wishes he had invited him along since it isn't safe to hunt alone, but Yuru is confident that nothing will happen to him since the left and right guardians of the village are watching over him. Danji's mother tells her son to help her while Yuru goes to meet his sister Asa, who we see is locked up, but she's happy to hear that he caught a pheasant. He wishes he had caught something bigger since it's been a dry year and he's worried about their food supplies for winter. Asa worries about him leaving her behind just like their parents did, but he assures her that he isn't going anywhere, and notes that he's improving his hunting skills to be more useful to the village. Danji's mother tells him that a merchant Dara has arrived with his goods, and we see that the whole village has come to meet him. Dara explains that there's a pandemic in the outside world, so he's buying medicinal herbs at a high price and everyone trades with him. Yuru greets him and Dara notes he's looking for a gift for his sister, so he gives him a souvenir he brought for her. As Dara leaves, Danji wishes he could also leave the village and thinks the outside world must be a beautiful place since everyone who goes there doesn't return. But Yuru notes that he wants to spend the rest of his life in the village since he doesn't want to leave his sister behind. Danji suggests they should all leave together, but Yuru turns him down and thinks he'll be a bad influence on Asa, who needs to perform an important task for the village. They suddenly hear a strange noise and they think it must be a dragon's roar, but Danji notices it's different. A mysterious hand unleashes a powerful blast which breaks the barrier protecting the village and exposes it to the outside world. They see the airplane that was leaving trails in the sky and everyone looks up as they see two helicopters approaching while a group of soldiers begins their assault. The chief Yona realizes the barrier has been broken and she thinks they've come for Yura, so she tells the villagers to hide him. Yura and Danji rush back home, but they run into the soldiers who recognize Yura as their target, but he takes them out with his arrows. Danji worries for his mother, but Yura needs to save Asa, so he takes him through the hidden passage under the statues which leads to the keep. A girl named Gabby arrives outside the village and she cuts down the villagers with her mysterious power. A mother runs with her daughter, but Gabby cuts her head off and her daughter fears for her life, but Gabby explains that she doesn't bite kids and finishes off another survivor. She tells her team that she has cleared the outer and middle areas, but she can't reach them because Dara has already taken them out. He calls his friend Hannah and tells her they need to change their meeting point since the village is under attack. A girl drags Yona to Asa's cell and she uses her power to destroy it, but Asa is hit in the process. Yura arrives and sees her covered in blood, but the girl reveals that she's his real sister and that she came to kill everyone else in the village. Yura refuses to believe her and he shoots her with an arrow, but she creates an explosion and apologizes for hurting him, explaining that she still isn't used to her powers. But a demon suddenly appears and grabs onto her while Yona tells Dara to escape with Yura to the outside world. Dara runs away with him, but there are snipers on the helicopters, so Dara realizes they've missed their chance. He tells Yura they must hurry and he gives him a pendant telling him to put it in the holes near the village flagstones. Yura is reluctant at first, but Dara pushes him to do it and the snipers don't shoot him since they want to capture him alive. Yuri replaces the pendant, but Dara suddenly slams his head into the ground and his blood flows into the pendant, which creates a flash of light that blinds the snipers. There are two demons that suddenly attack the helicopters, and they send them crashing to the ground. Gabby is upset seeing this because the helicopters were our only way home, and she wonders who the demons belong to. The demons approach Yuri, and one of them mentions how their new master will be easy to control since he's just a child, but the other one notes that they must obey him regardless. He has no idea what's happening, so Dara tells him they're demons and notes that they'll follow him since he's their master. In a flashback, Yuri's father shows him the hidden passage and notes that the lord of the land had it built when the village was a castle, but he tells Yuri to keep it secret and only use it in an extreme emergency. In the present, the demons confirm that they've been watching Yuri the whole time, and they know that Dara is a demon retainer who works as a middleman between the Higashi village and the rest of the world. The demons explain that they took down the giant birds since they seemed to be a threat to Yuri, but they aren't sure what they were. So, Dara explains that they're vehicles of the modern world. He asks the demons to help them get down the mountain, but the demons tell him they'll only obey Yuri's orders. Dara notes that they don't have the time to argue, but they're suddenly interrupted by Gabby, who thinks the demons belong to Dara. She realizes Yuri was OSS's brother since he's the same age as her, and she asks him to come with them, but he becomes angry when he hears OSS's name and asks her if she was the one who killed the villagers. She confirms his suspicion, so Wright tells Yuri to order them to get rid of her, but Yuri notes that he won't use the village's guardians for murder. He tells them to rescue all the survivors instead and notes that they shouldn't touch Gabby since she's his target, so Wright jumps over her to find the survivors. He warns her that his other half is hot-blooded, and Left suddenly kicks her demon away, which creates an opening for Yura to shoot her. He prepares to fire another arrow, but her demon quickly grabs her and flies away with her, so Yura chases after her while Dara picks up the pendant and runs after them. In the village, Wright finds the girl who survived Gabby's attack, but as he wakes her up, he realizes she can't see him, so he makes himself visible for a second. She becomes so scared that she passes out, so he takes her to the other survivors, but we learn that they all fainted after they saw him. He wonders why the attackers killed the adults and left the children unharmed, but he suddenly sees Asa who attacks him, but he instantly overpowers her with his roar. He explains that he would have given her a fight, but he's busy carrying out his master's orders, so she runs off, and he notices something strange about her scent. Gabby hides behind her demon, but Left forces its mouth open, and Yura lands another shot. Asa suddenly arrives to save her and reminds him that she's his sister, but he doesn't believe her since she's grown up, so she explains that the world below has better access to nutrition. He prepares to fight her, but Wright stops him and notes that she has the same smell as him, which means she really is his sister. Yura can't believe it and wonders who he's been visiting, so Asa tells him she was an imposter. She reveals that 10 years ago, their parents fled the village with her, so the village elders created a fake Asa because they knew he would never leave as long as his sister was still there. Dara interrupts their reunion and tells Yura they should leave quickly since the attackers are still after him, and they don't know what Asa is really capable of. So he agrees to spare Gabby under the condition that they promise not to hurt any more villagers. As they leave, Gabby mentions that Yura is merciless, but Asa is glad he's still alive, and she becomes emotional as she talks about him. Yala restores the barrier around the village, and Yura's group runs down the mountain, but Yura realizes he can't see the village anymore. He wonders if he can ever return, so Dara explains that he can, but it would be dangerous since his identity has been exposed. Dara notes that they need to blend into the world below, and they soon arrive at their destination, where they see Hannah waiting for them. She isn't happy that Dara brought demons with him, and reminds him that he only told her he would bring Yura, but he tells her there's no time to explain because Yura's life is in danger. Hannah tells them to get in the car, but Yura thinks it's dangerous since he doesn't know how it works, so she lies that it runs fast because it has horses inside it. Meanwhile, a man named Jean arrives to pick up Gabby and Asa, but he's shocked to learn that new demons appeared, and Gabby reports that Yura escaped with Dara. Jean recognizes Dara as a demon retainer, and thinks they shouldn't have attacked while he was around since he's incredibly dangerous. Yura's group runs into a friendly demon who asks Left and Right about their new master, so they tell her it's one of the twins that separate day and night. He wonders if his demons were strong because they were able to injure Gabby, so she notes that they're powerful, but the one who shot her was Yura. She explains that he first shot her leg to shut down her mobility before targeting her dominant hand, so Asa realizes he thinks like a real hunter. Yura's group buys food from a store, and Hannah tells him to put on new clothes so that he doesn't stand out, but he's shocked to see rice balls made with 100% white rice. Dara realizes they would be considered luxurious in his village, but Yura likes the food so much that it makes him think of Asa, and he wishes she could try it, too. Wright wonders about the place, so Dara explains that they're at a rest stop where they can find food, shops, and restrooms. The demons listen to his explanation, so he wonders if they want to head inside, but they decide to stay with Yuru instead and tell Dara and Hannah to eat while they keep watch. Inside the diner, Hannah wonders how much truth he has told Yuru, so Dara notes that they shouldn't reveal more information to him since he got really upset after he learned about his real sister. She wonders if she should drop them at Dara's place, but he tells her he can't go back since the enemy knows his face and name. Hannah feels sorry for him because he's homeless and needs to care for someone else's child, but he notes that it's our problem as well. He reminds her that she's also a Gashi village demon retainer and suggests that they get married, but she pulls out her brass knuckles and tells him it's their wedding ring. He explains that it wouldn't be a real thing and they just needed to blend in with society to protect Yuru. But Hana thinks they could just be roommates and notes that she could be Yuru's older sister while he pretends to be their single father. He thinks it would draw too much attention because people will gossip about how his wife left him, so he thinks the best cover is that Yuru is his kid and he remarried a younger woman. She becomes upset and notes that she doesn't like his plan because she's saving herself for her crush, Jason Statham. Meanwhile, Yuru asks Left and Right to tell him everything they know about him and his sister, but Right explains they sat at the village entrance for 400 years, so they don't know what happened inside. They reveal that they could only see the people passing through them, but they heard that the twins were born and eventually started to see Yuru, who used to go hunting with his father. Left notes that they never saw Asa and thought she died of sickness, but 10 years ago, they saw his parents flee with a little girl whose blood smelled just like his. He feels bad because he always thought his parents had left both of them behind, but it turns out they only left him, and he thinks Asu's imposter might know where their parents are. Dara returns with Hana, and she announces that they will be Yura's guardians, who will be responsible for all his actions. She tells him to get down from the car because it would draw attention, so he notes that Right and Left are also sitting there, but she explains that normal humans can't see them unless they wish to be seen. Dara wonders if he needs to use the washroom, so Yura notes that he already peed in the bushes, and she thinks he's already causing trouble for them. As they continue their trip, Yura asks about the Katamori clan, so Dara explains that they're a branch clan that left Tagashi village and eventually established themselves in the world below. Meanwhile, we see a woman running from a man who corners her in an elevator, and she warns him to stay away from her. But he gets close, so she turns into a terrifying creature and tells him he has stepped into her territory. Jean calls his client to explain that he's resolved the matter regarding her stalker, and the man has promised never to come near her again. Jean comes to clean the elevator of evidence, but another woman sees his demon and freezes in terror, so he realizes she can see it and tells her not to tell anyone about it. In the car, Dara explains how they weren't told much, and they just inherited the job from their parents. He reveals that Yua's only instructions were to make sure no one else learns about the village, and that the twins shouldn't fall into the wrong hands. He reveals his real name is Tedariru, and Yura asks about the significance of being twins, so Right explains that when a twin boy and girl are born in the eastern village on a day when night and day are equal, the world will be torn apart. He notes that the last time it happened was 400 years ago, and it led to a major war that divided the world into east and west, and he adds that before that, another war split the world into north and south. Yura wonders if they're cursed, but Right tells him it isn't the case, and notes that it's the people who want to use their power that start the fighting. Yuru thinks there's nothing special about him, so Left tells him he has the potential to gain power, and Right notes that Ace's power break allows her to force anything open. Its twin power is Seal, which can forcibly close anything, and Hana wonders what would happen if the two ever collided. But Left and Right think no one has ever acquired both powers at once, so nobody knows the answer. Yuru remembers the barrier around the village and wonders how Deer got through it. So, he explains that his clan knows a specific route, which involves special movements and directions. He also reveals that Yuru's mother is from the world below, and she accidentally stumbled upon the route while she was lost. So, Yuru recalls when she told him that in her birthplace, his name means night, and she hoped that she could one day take her family there. Yuru starts to get used to life in the modern world, and his demons are stunned by the huge buildings around them, which they think are castles for lords. But, Yuru explains that it's just a normal city, and notes that dozens of people live in each of them. Yuru thinks Deer and Hana are good people, but he can't fully trust them since they're connected to the deception around Asa, and he wants to capture her so that he can force her to take him to their parents. He asks Left and Right for their help, which makes them happy since they haven't done anything like that in centuries. Deer reveals that Hana has found a place for them to live, but Yuru asks him about his phone, so he explains that it's a device used to send messages like a smoke signal. They arrive at their new home, and Hana thinks Deer should use the Western-style room, while Yuru should use the room with tatami, but he wonders if it's all right for him to use such luxuries. Hana's demons, Kotetsu and Jiro, hit him since they don't recognize him, so she introduces them as her guardian demons. He thinks they look like an ordinary cat and dog, so they beat him up, and Right tells Yuru to be respectful to them. Hana tells Deer and Yuru they will be using her family name Dano because the enemy already knows Dara's identity. But Yuru is surprised to hear they have family names and wonders if they're from great families. So, Hana notes that everyone outside the village has a last name. Dara reveals that she owns a mountain, but she explains that she just inherited it and thinks she can't sell it since nobody maintains it. Yuru wonders if he can go hunting there, but Dara tells him that hunting requires written permission in the city and notes that he'll also need a license to drive the metal horses. At the Kagamori mansion, Asa practices her break ability, but she struggles to control it and ends up destroying a part of the yard. So, she apologizes to Gonzo. He notes that it's fine as long as she doesn't kill anyone and tells Jean to clean up. So, he orders his demon to do it. They all go to see Gabby and Asa gives her an apple, but she forgot to cut it. So, Jin's demon gives her a knife. Gabby is uncomfortable using that knife, but Jean assures her it hasn't been used to stab anyone and Gonzo tells Asa to stay at the mansion with her. He explains that once everyone learns the twins have left the village, they will all start looking for them and there are even people from the Kagamori clan who want to use her. So, it's better for her to stay at the mansion. He notes that Jean will look for Yuru, but Jean has never seen him before. So, Gabby and Asa draw him, but their drawings aren't useful. Jean decides to start by looking into Dara, but before he leaves, Asa warns him that Yuru's demons have keen noses. At the apartment, Dara comes out of the bathroom after shaving off his beard because he needs to make himself harder to recognize. But Hana is upset since he changed the only thing that made him look like Jason Statham and tells him he's now worthless to her. He complains that he just got married, but his wife is already emotionally abusing him and he wonders where Yuru went. So, she notes that he went for a walk with his demons. Dara notices his machete is missing and they both panic because if the police find Yura carrying it, they will get into serious trouble. Yura goes to a rooftop where they see the whole city and he asks his demons if they can help him find Asa. Right mentions it won't be easy to find her in such a huge world, but Left thinks that if the Kajimori are also looking for him, they will eventually run into each other. He wonders if they can find an area with a large number of demons since he knows it will lead them to the Kajimori's base where they can find Asa through the smell of her blood. So, they transform into their demon forms and start to search the city. They eventually reach a parking garage where Yura sees Asa with others, but he immediately charges at her. So, Right warns him it's a trap. He gets caught by Jin's demon and he realizes Asa is fake as Jin explains that he used her blood to lure Yura. In the apartment, Hana tells Jiro to smell Yura's shirt and track him while Kotetsu tracks Jiro's location on his cell phone. Dara is surprised that her demons can use modern technology, so she explains that they've adapted well to this world because they've been passed down for generations. They're shocked to learn that Yura has gone to Tokyo and they wonder if he's lost or went there on purpose. Yura's demons come out of hiding and Jin's men tell them to stop, but they continue to move forward and Left tells Yura to stay there because it will keep Jin's demon out of there. Fight. Jin and the others are surprised at how they're ordering their master, so Yura notes that he's a hands-off type of master and Jin brings out weapons from his demon Makoto. They start firing at Yura's demons, but the bullets have no effect since they're made of stone and the men continue to attack them, so they decide to fight back. A man named Haruo finally reveals his demons and a tortoise crushes Left while Rabbit attacks Right with incredible speed. Right asks Left for help, but she explains that she's in no position to do that, so Yura throws Dara's machete to knock the tortoise off Left, which allows her to break free and help Rice. Yuru tells Rice to take out the lights, but Jin thinks they're only pretending to run away as he recalls how Asa told him Yuru thinks like a hunter. Yuru attacks with his machete, so Jin jumps away, but a light suddenly turns on and his companions realize he has been captured. Left and Right come out of hiding and Haruo can't believe they abandoned their master, but Left explains that they can do as they please as long as they get the job done. Yuru asks Jin if he was part of the attack on the Agashi village, so Jin reveals that he's responsible for it and Yuru becomes so angry that his hands start to tremble. But he controls his emotions and tells Jin to call Asa because he wants to speak with her. Jean wonders if the Agashi village wants both twins, but Yuru explains that he came on his own and just wants to talk to her. Jean invites him to the Katamori mansion. Because Asa also wants to see him, but Yuru refuses since he thinks it's a trap and reminds everyone they don't have a choice. He allows the others to treat Jin's wounds and Jean wonders why Yuru cut him shallow on purpose. So he explains it's because he knew they weren't trying to kill him and recalls that Jean could have killed him with his surprise attack. Wright checks the demons around them and notices a pair that hasn't shown up, so Akio notes that his demons are too big to fit inside the garage and they're shocked to see a giant eye outside. Jean mentions that he can't bring Asa to them and instead assures Yuru that they won't harm him if he heads to the mansion. He looks around and realizes the demons are too much for Wright and left to handle, so he agrees to go with Jean. He tells him to treat his demons with respect, so Jean cleans the place with his demon eye and explains that it can consume anything while Makoto can bring out the things he needs in a fight. Asa gets a message from Jean that he's coming with Yuru, so she rushes to wake up Gabby, who is impressed by how quickly Jean has completed the mission. On way to the mansion, Jean calls Gonzo, who explains that he can't meet them yet since he's at a hot spring, and he tells them to treat their guests well until he returns. They arrive at the mansion, but Rin wonders why he can't sense demons since he knows that the Katamori has demon wielders. So, Jean notes that they haven't reached the VIP section yet. They pass through a gate, and Ren and Left immediately sense demons everywhere while Asa asks Gabby if she wants to accompany her. Gabby decides to stay behind since she can barely walk, and she also wants to see the person who shot her twice. Kotetsu follows them there, and Hana learns from the GPS that Yuru is with the Katamori clan, so they wonder if he was caught. Dara decides to pick him up and tells her to stay behind because the enemy doesn't know about her. As Yuru reaches the front door, a man named Asuma comes to welcome him, but Jean becomes suspicious since he never told Asuma anything about Yuru. Asa rushes to meet her brother, but he doesn't let her hug him and tells her to worry about Jin's injuries first. Asuma offers to show Yuru around, but Jean notes that they have no business with him and tells Akio to stay outside and make sure no one goes through the barrier. In the infirmary, a doctor named Sakurazawa stitches Jean up, and she can't believe a kid cut him, but Yuru notes that every boy in their village can use a blade. Jean returns Asa's blood sample to Sakurazawa, which shocks Yuru since he thought that only witches drew blood from living women and children. Asa explains it was her idea and that modern technology can draw a small amount without cutting any veins, so it barely hurts when done by a professional. He recalls why he wanted to meet her and asks to see their parents, but she reveals that they're missing and she has no idea where they are. Jean notes that after the clan took in his parents, they eventually decided to visit his mother's hometown in Okinawa, so they got on a plane. But Yuru doesn't know what a plane is, so Asa notes that they used to call dragons in the village. She reveals that their parents weren't there when the plane arrived in Okinawa, and Yura wonders if they sent anyone to guard them. So, Jean reveals that they had a demon wheeler with them, who has also gone missing. Yura thinks the person might be responsible for their disappearance, and Asa thinks he's right because he could have been a Higashi village agent who infiltrated the clan. Jean takes responsibility for the failure, but Yura can't believe Asa still trusts the Katamori since they let their parents go missing. Asa explains that she trusts them because after she left the village, there were assassins that came for her, and the Katamori clan saved her life. Meanwhile, a group of people plans their attack from a distance, and they think it's the perfect chance to get the twins. Because Jean and Gabby are injured while Gonzo is away. Left and Right suddenly sense something approaching, and a pair of demons crash into the building. Yura's group runs from the demons, and he thinks about killing their master, but Haru explains it will just make them into strays. He reveals that without a master, they will be bound to that place like ghosts, and if no one forms a contract with them over a few decades, they will be forgotten completely. Yura realizes it won't get rid of them. So he decides not to kill their masters, and asks Jean if he has a bow. He orders Makoto to spit out all kinds of the equipment, but Yura doesn't recognize most of them, so he takes the simplest one he can find and fires an arrow at the demons. He completely misses them, and realizes he needs to adjust his bow, so he runs with the others while Jean calls Gabby to check on her. She notes that she was also attacked, and tells him to protect Asa, but he explains that he can't fight because of his injuries, so she calls him useless. He assures her that Yura and his demons are handling things, which makes her relieved since she knows exactly how capable they are. He tells her she can use her full power, so she orders her demon to eat the intruders, and she realizes the enemies are everywhere, so she tells her demon it's time for dinner. Asa notes that she'll handle the demons chasing the group, but she apologizes to Jean in advance since she might destroy the mansion. He tells her it's fine and promises to deal with Gonzo, so Haruo asks for the same, but Jean tells him he will need to face the consequences. She asks Yura to distract the white demon, and they prepare to fight together, but they're suddenly sucked into a void. Haruo summons his tortoise to stop the demon from escaping, and he notes that if the demons can make people disappear, they might know something about Ace's parents. The tortoise pushes the demon to the ground, and Jean tells Haruo he can damage the mansion, but notes that he should be careful not to kill the demon or its master. They're suddenly surrounded by more demons, so Haruo tells Jean to handle them, and Jean realizes no one will come to help them, so he orders his demon to give him a gun. Asa calls out to the others in a dark space, but she gets no response, and she becomes scared as she remembers her past. But Wright tells her that he is with her. He tells her he can smell her sweat, so he knows she's scared and helps her to calm down. She wonders where her brother is, so he notes that Left is probably with him and reveals that he came with her on purpose because he wanted to talk to her. He reminds her of how she attacked him when they first met in the village and reveals that he's her natural enemy, which is why he was able to neutralize her break. She recalls how her father told her about Left and Right, who have the power to stop Break and Seal from going out of control, so she realizes that if Yura gets the power of Seal, Left will become his natural enemy. We see Yura and Left in a white space. But it's so bright that Yura loses his sense of balance, and Left reveals that she tried to fly, but ended up hitting a ceiling. She thinks they're in a barrier created by the enemy demons, so Yura thinks they shouldn't waste time and asks her to help him adjust his bow. She wonders why he isn't scared, so he explains that nothing has made sense since the village was attacked, and he has just gotten used to being confused. He aims for the Michelle in her hand, but ends up hitting her face instead, so he tells her she should have dodged. She explains that it doesn't matter since she's made of stone, and thinks he should be worried about his sister, who was swallowed by the black barrier. But Yura thinks she can break out on her own since she has the power of break. As the manager is to get free, and she immediately uses her ability to break the contract between the demon and its master. Sakurazawa returns her blood, which she pours on it to form a new contract, and she wonders if it swallowed her brother. It confirms that it did, so she orders it to spit him out, but Yura and Left immediately prepare to attack it. She explains that it's now on their side, and Eruo notes that its previous master might know about their parents' disappearance, so she asks the demon to lead them to its previous master. So it runs to the hallway and points toward a door, and Yura hits the man behind it. Meanwhile, Jean takes out multiple intruders with the help of his demons, but he doesn't recognize any of them. He runs into Gabby, who notes that she took out 5 parties of intruders, but she also didn't recognize them. They see an intruder with an arrow stuck in his body, and he notes that he wants to surrender, but Jean wonders where Yura is attacking from. We see Yura on the roof, where he hunts the other intruders, and we see one of them hiding behind the bushes. He realizes he can't get close to Yura, so he decides to retreat, and we see another intruder as he tries to escape. But he bumps into Akio's demon, which is waiting outside the gate, and Akio appears with a metal rod to finish him off. The next day, Jean apologizes to Yura for dragging him into the mess, and Yura explains that he only helped them to find his parents' trail. Gabby joins them, but she isn't happy to see him, and he notes that even though he allowed her to leave, he still hasn't forgiven her. So, Asa intervenes to calm them down. They question the captured intruders, and a man named Hamura reveals that he was told to capture the twins for a huge reward, but he has no idea who his client was. Haruo summons his tortoise to crush Hamura's legs, so he notes that he doesn't know his teammates, but their leader is a bearded man in a camel jacket. Akio mentions that he killed him earlier at the gate, and Jean asks Hamura if he knows about Yuru's parents, but he explains that he doesn't, and the other intruders also don't know anything. Asa apologizes to Yuru because he came hoping to find something, and she asks Hamura what he named his demons. But he reveals that he never named them because demons are like livestock to him. Gabby is enraged at his answer, and her demon prepares to crush his skull, but she decides to spare him and leaves. Haruo thinks it's because of his attitude that his demons betrayed him so easily, while Asa wonders what she should call them. They start being overly friendly with her, but she reminds them that she's just their temporary master, and she wonders if they can get smaller, so they shrink down, and she finds them cute. Yuru asks her if assassins have always been after her ever since she left the village, and she notes that she's already used to it, but she's glad he was there to help her. He wonders if the assassins are also the reason she lost her eye, and she's reluctant to tell him the truth, but she decides not to lie to him and reveals that Higashi village assassin once killed her. In a flashback from 10 years ago, Yuru goes to hunt with his father, Mine, when a bandit suddenly attacks him while they're deep in the mountains. He feels the bandit's intent to kill, so his body naturally reacts and stabs the man in the chest, while his father shoots the bandit from behind. Mine rushes to him, telling him to remember what someone's intent to kill feels like, and warns him that he'll experience it countless times, so he shouldn't hesitate to do whatever it takes to survive. They spend the night in the mountains to let Yura calm down, and Mine teaches him to relieve anxiety by taking deep breaths, telling him to always analyze the situation to stay alive. He's worried that the other bandits might attack the village, but Mine tells him to act as if nothing happened because he knows that the village won't be attacked. When they return to the village, Mine lies to everyone and explains that they spent the night in the mountains since they lost track of time, but Yawa notices the blood on Yura, so Mine claims it was from a rat they ate. Yura's mother and Asa are relieved to see that they're safe, and Yura doesn't tell them what actually happened. But as he's talking to his sister about hunting, he sees Mine telling something to his mother, which makes her worried. Shortly after that incident, they fled from the village and left him with the girl he thought was his sister. In the present, Asa explains that after they left the village, the Katamori clan took them in, and things seemed to calm down until their parents went missing. She notes that when she was 15, the Higashi village assassin captured and killed her, and she found herself in a place she thought was hell, but a demon told her it wasn't the case. The demon revealed that they were at the boundary between the land of the dead and the living, which is known as Yomi no Kuni or Yomi no Joka. So she remembers the village legend her father told her about, in which twins travel to the shadow realm to command demons. The demon corrects her, telling her that the oral traditions always get distorted, and they're in a place just before the shadow realm. The demon explains that no one can reach it unless they die, and that the Higashi village actually sent assassins to kill her on purpose so that she would end up there. The demon tells her she could either remain dead and fall from the bridge or accept the break power and return to the world of the living, but it warns her that those who wish to use her power would gather around her, and she might experience a living hell. Asa mentions that her personal hell has probably already started because she's the reason why her parents went missing, but she suddenly remembers Yuru. She wonders if he's still alive, so the demon reveals that it doesn't know, but notes that he'll reach Seal when he dies, and it tells her to make her decision. In the living world, the assassins panic when Asa doesn't revive, and they start to argue about how they might have picked the wrong girl. They think they failed to get the break power, so they decide to go after the seal power. Instead, thinking it would be easier to control Yuru for their personal benefit since he was brainwashed by the villagers. Asa suddenly frees herself with her break power and eliminates both of them, but Gabby finds her and tells her to leave the killing to misfits like her instead. Asa apologizes for taking out the assassins and explains that she didn't choose to be a chosen twin, but she made an important decision, so she now has to get her hands dirty. In the present, Asa tells Yuru that things have changed, so the innocent little sister he once knew is gone. The next day, Darren shows up at the Katamori mansion gate and notes that he's there to get Yuru, so Jean tells Yuru about his arrival. Yuru thinks about the tricky situation because Asa trusts the Katamori, but Darren and Hannah want nothing to do with them, so he decides the best move is to hear both sides at the same time. He asks Jean to bring Darren, so Jean tells Akio to escort him, but Asuma shows up and asks what happened to the mansion. Jean finds it strange that Asuma slept through the night since he has a keen sense of hearing and the entire mansion was in chaos. A man named Hikaru arrives, and he's concerned that the mansion was attacked even though it's heavily guarded, but he's relieved to see that Asa and Yuru are okay. He apologizes to Jean since he couldn't help and explains that he fell asleep after his deadline, but Jean is just glad he was able to finish his work on time. Ganzo arrives with Darren and Jean. wonders why they're together, so Ganzo explains that they ran into each other on the way. He tells Yuru he's heard a lot about him from Asa, but Jean thinks about how the Tatara clan are the Agashir villagers' retainers, and they've never shown themselves to the Katamori before. He wonders why one of them has walked into enemy territory defenseless, and Wright wonders if the Katamori and Tatara could be working together. But Yuru doesn't think that's the case, since he can sense that Gonzo and Jean want to end Dara's life. He asks Dara why no one told him he would acquire the seal power if he died. So Dara explains that he only heard the village legend, and he doesn't know the details. He mentions that Yuru was a kind and caring brother, so if someone used his sister against him, he would throw his life away. Wright notes that there's no guarantee he would even come back, and Left reveals that one of the last twins born 400 years ago didn't return to life after dying. But Gonzo changes the topic and invites everyone for breakfast. As they enter the hall, Gonzo notices it has been destroyed, so Hikaru offers to fix it and summons his demons. He instantly erases the damaged parts of the building before reconstructing the walls and mats, which surprises Dara and Yuru, since they've never seen anything like it. Hikaru explains that his demons are called whiteout and ink, and he applies whiteout to anything he wants to fix before using ink to draw the details. Asa notes that his ability requires strong imagination and visualization, and Hikaru can use it effectively since he's a mandaka, but Yuru has no idea what that is. Hikaru reveals that he uses the pen name Hager, since the Katamori family's reputation is controversial, and Dara recognizes his name from the credits of multiple films, so he thinks Hikaru must be a famous artist. Yuru realizes he's also a Katamori family member, so Hikaru introduces himself as Gonzo's eldest son, and he notes that Asuma is the second child. Jean reveals that he's the youngest, and we learn that they all have different mothers, but Hikaru will become the next clan head since he's the eldest. So, they should try to establish good relations with him, but Hikaru isn't interested in the position since he wants to live a normal life. Dara notices there are repaired spots that are still monochrome, so Hikaru explains that the colors will naturally blend over time. But, as he looks at them carefully, he realizes he forgot to add wear and tear to make them look natural. He wants to redo everything immediately. But Gonzo tells him it's okay and invites them to have breakfast first. The servants place cushions around the room, and Gonzo tells them not to worry about the seating order, and the small demons even bring cushions for left and right since he considers all his guests equal. As everyone eats, Jean wonders how Dara discovered Yuru was there, but Dara tells him it's a trade secret. Jean wonders if Dara helped the assassins who attacked the mansion last night because he thinks the timing is suspicious. But Dara tells him he had nothing to do with the attacks and asks Asa if she's being treated well. So, she explains that she's comfortable and safe inside the mansion. She notes that the first time she was attacked in the mansion was last night, and Sakurazawa doesn't want her to leave the mansion since she knows it isn't safe outside. She explains that Asa only leaves for hospital visits when she can't be treated in the infirmary, and she notes that it was during one of those trips when the Agashi assassins kidnapped her. She reveals that she has a gastric ulcer because of the stress of constantly being targeted by assassins, but Dara tells her he isn't involved with them. He wonders how she handles things like insurance without a family register, so she explains that she never had any because her parents disappeared before she could get it done. He thinks the people in Agashi wouldn't do that, but Gonzo wonders how they can trust him, so he notes that he doesn't agree with the Agashi extremists and reminds everyone he came unarmed to pick up Yuru. He wonders if the Kagamori extremists could be behind it because he knows that not everyone in the clan Gonzo, and he asks Gonzo what he plans to do with the twins. He explains that the twins' powers have always brought chaos and he believes that Asa and Yora should be the final pair ever born. But for that to happen, Higashi village must disappear because the twins can only be born there. He thinks it's the Katamori clan's responsibility to end the cycle, but Asuma disagrees and notes that the Katamori clan should control the twins' powers. Yoro thanks left and right because they told him he wasn't a cursed child, and he notes that it meant a lot to him. After his meal, Yoro points at Asa and admits he still hasn't forgiven her for attacking the village. But he wonders who's making her feel guilty since she keeps apologizing for everything that isn't even her fault. He notes that he won't let anyone decide how they should. Livin explains that he won't hide no matter who comes after him so that he can capture his enemies and force answers out of them. Asa calls him an idiot and thinks he's only saying it since he's never experienced being hunted all the time. She asks left and right to talk sense into him, but they're both ready to follow their master, and Gabby tells her he would help carry the burden she's been carrying alone. Gonzo invites Yoro to join their clan, but Yoro turns him down because he called the Higashi village miserable. He appreciates their help in searching for his parents, but he wants to stay with Dara and carry on his own journey. Yoru prepares to leave with Dara, and Asa asks his companions to protect him, but as they reach the mansion gates, Asa stops since she's afraid to go outside, and Yoru realizes she has moved from one prison to another. She shows him a photo of her parents, but he wonders how she has such a realistic image of them since he's never seen a photo before. She takes a selfie with him, and left and right also want to be a part of it, but she explains demons don't appear on camera since they don't have physical bodies. He wants to see photo of their parents again, and she offers to send him a copy, but he doesn't remember their address. Dara refuses to give personal information to the Katamori clan, but Jean gives him a business card for one of the clan's bars, and notes that they can find him there if they want to talk. Before Yuru leaves, Asa reveals that their parents wanted to escape with him as well, but Yasha stopped them, so they were forced to leave without him, and he's glad she told him the truth. He starts to walk away, but she runs after him to hug him, and tells him to stay safe. After she leaves, he suddenly drops to his knees and notes that he shouldn't have lowered his guard. He starts to cry as he realizes she really is his sister, because he still remembers how she used to touch his back. Jean looks at the gate, but Asa thinks he shouldn't betray Yuru's trust by spying on them, and he tells her she's right, but we see that Asuma has already sent a demon to track them. Dara notices that Yuru is upset, so he mentions that since they're already out in the middle of the city, they should learn about the outside world. He shows him the things he's never seen before, and they watch a horse race, where Dara loses money by betting on the wrong horse. Yuru wonders how much the winning horse would cost, but Dara tells him it's expensive, and offers to buy anything he needs to live there. He mentions that he needs arrows since he already has a bow, and wonders where they can find the materials he needs to make them, so Dara takes him to the supermarket. They're surprised to see that everything is on sale there, and after picking up all the items, they go to check out, but the cashier is shocked to see left and right, so Dara explains that when ordinary humans are sleep deprived, they can sometimes see demons. They head to the other side of the store, and Yuru is interested in black clothes, since he thinks they can hide bloodstains well, and he remembers that he was attacked by bandits a few times. He reveals that unlike the adult villagers, who have marks on their hands and knuckles, the bandits' hands were clean, so he thinks they came from down the mountain. He wonders if the villagers helped them get there so that they could get rid of him, and Dara reveals that only a few people knew about the path to reach the Nagashi village. Yura thinks it will narrow down their search and notes that they should strike first because it will give them the advantage. He also tells Dara they're being followed and thinks Dara might have revealed his identity when they took a photo on Ace's phone. But he thinks it's okay because the mansion must have security cameras everywhere. Asa looks at her photo with her brother and she sees the one with Dara in it, but she edits him out. Jean asks her if she has a photo with Dara, but she tells him she doesn't, so he orders Haruo to get security footage from the cameras and she asks him to send her the parts with Yuru. They question the intruders who reveal that the man named Akashima hired them to attack the mansion, but they never met him in person before the mission. They show their phones and reveal that they got a call around midnight for an urgent mission, and Haruo realizes it's around the time they finished fighting Yuru. Gonzo wonders how they got in since only members and guests can enter the mansion, so they tell him the west gate was already open when they got there, but Jean reveals that the mansion doesn't have a west gate and notes that there's only a wall there. Gonzo tells his man named Fuyuki to use his demon blacklist and get information on their demons. He grabs their demons to learn that the girl's real name is Tachikawa, and we learn that she accepted the job since she needed money to pay for her mother's treatment. Blacklist looks into Amora and we learn that he needs money to pay off his gambling debt, but Fuyuki notes that they're both telling the truth since they only met on the job. Gonzo hires them to take care of the mansion and promises to pay for Tachikawa's mother's treatment, so she thanks him for his generosity. As he leaves, his servant wonders if it's okay to hire them, so he notes that they can use them as expendable soldiers since they already know their personal information. As they're working on the repairs, Hamura wonders if he can have his demons back, but also realizes they don't want him to be their master again. So, Gabby tells her to keep them and notes that they will help keep her safe. Hikaru has an online meeting with his editor and she wonders if he needs new people to help him, but he explains that he doesn't since Gabby and Asa have been incredibly useful. Yura apologizes since he forgot Dara's machete at the Kajimori mansion, but Dara is glad he left it behind since it's dangerous to carry it around. He thinks they should visit his house where they can grab weapons, so Yura reminds him they're being followed, but Dara thinks it's okay since he was already thinking of abandoning that place. They soon reach the house where Dara has stored a lot of weapons and Yura picks up an axe. The people following them decide to retreat and report their findings, but Yura and Dara show up behind them, so they pull out their weapons, but Dara immediately disarms them. Left and right sit on two of them while the third one runs away, but he falls into Dara's trap. He sees the Tedera clan's lost house, and Dara mentions that just like the Agashir village, the Tedera clan also has a barrier that can trap people inside. Left and right suddenly sense demons, and Dara thinks they're talking about his family demons surrounding the house, but they mention it's another pair. The demons quickly take out the men that were following them, so Dara and Yura prepare to fight. But Left tells them to stand back, because she knows they're no match for the demons called Teneda and Ashinata. Dara wakes up the old woman who was following them, but she's surprised to see Teneda and Ashinata, so he realizes she isn't their master. He wonders why Left and Right recognized them, so Left reveals that a long time ago, they helped a traveling monk who used the power of seal to trap Teneda and Ashinata in a mountain. Right wonders how they escaped, so they reveal that a master recently removed the seal and they're glad they can finally roam free after 1,000 years. Dara recalls a legend about them, which mentions that they cause destruction wherever they go. So, they tell him it isn't true, but admit they like to eat children. They look for Left and Right's master, and think it's the chosen twin and has the power of seal, but they don't know it's Yuru. So, Dara orders Left and Right to defeat them. They realize he's pretending to be their master to protect Yuru, so they decide to play along and he runs as Tonada and Ashinata go after him. Left and Right try to help, but Tonada and Ashinata immediately overpower them. Dara shoots Tonada, but his bullets have no effect and it swings its arm toward him and he barely dodges it. It tries to attack again, but Right sends it flying and it realizes that the wielder of seal isn't there. Ashinata thinks they have the advantage and they tell Right and Left they can't win since the monk isn't there to help them. Dara rushes to Yuru's side, but Yuru wonders why he pretended to be Right and Left's master. So, he reminds Yuru that he's his guardian. They start to interrogate the granny and Dara asks her who she's working for. So, she reveals that Asuma ordered her to follow them. She can't believe she got dragged into this mess, but we see a butterfly above them and we learn that Asuma is controlling it. Dara tells her to help them fight Tonada and Ashinata, but she explains that she can't summon her demons since she left them behind. She thinks they should just leave Tonada and Ashinata in the lost house, but he wants to get rid of them since they know how to get past his clan's barrier. Yuru volunteers to look for their master since he knows they don't see him as a threat and the granny decides to join him because she wants to settle everything and return to her family. Dara heads to his armory, but Tonada sees him, so it stretches its arm to attack him. He struggles to avoid its attacks, so Right crushes its arm to save him, but it wraps its arms around Right and throws him away. He realizes it destroyed his house, but thinks it's actually a good thing since he can now get the weapons in his armory. The granny looks around and thinks she has found the enemy master, but realizes it's just a corpse. Yuru notices there are bodies everywhere because the Tadera clan used the place to trap their enemies, and he thinks it's hard to find the enemy master since he can't sense their bloodlust. Tonada and Ashinata realize they can't kill Right and Left since they're extremely durable, so they think about going for their master first, but Dara suddenly shoots Ashinata in the eye. They have no idea what happened since they've never seen a sniper rifle before, and he continues to shoot them, forcing them to let Left and Right go. Ashinata has lost both of its eyes, and its partner doesn't know what's attacking them, but Left and Right pull them away and smash them into each other. But they suddenly combine their powers, and Tonada sees the granny. It grabs onto her and tells Ashinata to eat her so they can recover, but she tells them to eat Yuru instead since he's the twin who will have the power of seal. Tonada starts to look for him, and she waits for it to loosen its grip so she can break free, but it prepares to crush her as Ashinata notes that they will still eat her to heal their wounds. An axe suddenly hits Tanada's arm, and the granny falls, but Right catches her before she hits the ground. Yuru shows himself and reveals that he's the real master of left and right, but Tanada and Ashinata wonder what to do with him since he'll gain the power of seal if they kill him. They're afraid he might trap them after he awakens his powers, and they think they can kill him again after he revives, but they know left and right will get in the way. He tells them not to do anything until he gives the signal, so Tanada and Ashinata realize they have a chance, and they rush toward him, but he dodges their attacks and runs away. He wonders how they can follow him when Ashinata is blind, so it explains that their bodies act as one when they're in their true form, and Dara can't get a clear shot since they're moving too fast. They destroy a tree and throw a corpse's head toward Dara, who realizes they found him. Yura runs for his life and dodges their attacks, but they crush him with a tree and prepare to finish him off. He suddenly reaches out his hand and they panic since they think he's about to seal them, but he tells them they fell for his bluff and orders right and left to take advantage of the opening. They throw Tanada into the water and smash it with a giant stone, so it extends its arm to ask for its partner's help. But Right stops it before it can reach Ashinata and it ends up drowning. Ashinata looks for its partner, but Dara shoots its head off and their bodies turn into totems. Yura thinks seal must be a dangerous power since the demons freaked out when they thought he was about to use it, and Right praises the tactic he used, but notes that it was risky. Left catches the butterfly that was spying on them and the granny knows it's from Asuma's demon, but notes that killing it won't hurt them since it's only a small part of it. We see Asuma with his demon Asajiri, who tells him she's found the way to Dara's hideout, so he thanks her for her help. Yura looks around the house and notes that Tanada and Ashinata stopped attacking him when he reached a certain spot, so he thinks their master is hiding there. He sees a boy under the house and tells him to show himself, so he comes out and promises to tell Yura everything. Dara asks him who he is, so he reveals that his name is Ken and notes that his father owns the house. Yura wonders if he's Dara's son, but he doesn't recall having a child, and Ken reveals his mother's name, but Dara has never heard of her. Ken reveals that his father, Roy, told him about Dara, and Yura notes that Roy's name sounds familiar, so Dara reveals that Roy is his father and he went to Agashi when Yura was a kid. Everyone realizes Ken is Dara's half-brother and he revealed he overheard everything while he was hiding, so he knows Yura was a chosen twin. He notes that his father told him about Yura's parents and taught him how to escape Agashi's barrier, so Yura wonders where he can find them, but Ken is too afraid to answer. The granny realizes their situation is complicated and promises not to tell anyone what she knows because they saved her life. She wonders if they'll let her go, and Dara notes that killing her won't change anything since Asuma's demon already knows how to get there. He asks for Yura's opinion, so he notes that they should let her go because he thinks she isn't a threat to them. She sees the bodies of her companions and asks if she can bury them since she knows they don't have families to hold funerals for them. Yura decides to help her and Right digs with his bare hands while Ken thanks Dara for defeating his demons because he couldn't control them. Yura wonders if demon contracts can be peacefully dissolved, so Dara explains that it's possible through an agreement with the master and demon, but Right and Left don't want to end their contract with Yura since it allows them to move freely. They warn Ken to be careful since not all demons are as good as them, and they reveal that Seal can turn straight demons into their relic forms while Break can set them free. Dara returns the granny to the town and tells her to give his regards to Asuma, but she decides to quit since her job is too dangerous. Dara tells Ken to share everything he knows, but he explains that he doesn't know where Yura's parents are and notes that he can't even find Roy. Dara realizes he's just as clueless as they are and explains that the house is a demon, but it doesn't belong to him since its contract is with Roy. Ken notes that his father left him with his mother, but she died the other day, so he had to survive on his own. He thought he needed demons to protect him, so he formed a contract with Tanaga and Ashinata, but they turned out to be evil, so he trapped them in the lost house. Dara reveals that he inherited his job a decade ago, which is around the same time Yura's parents left the village, but he notes that he hasn't heard from Roy since, and he thinks Roy dumped the family business on him so that he can start a new family. Ken reveals that he didn't talk about work, but whenever he got drunk, he complained about Yura's mother, Nagisa, who blackmailed him into telling her how to escape Agashur. She sees the bodies of her companions and asks if she can bury them since she knows they don't have families to hold funerals for them. Yura decides to help her and right digs with his bare hands while Ken thanks Dara for defeating his demons because he couldn't control them. Yura wonders if demon contracts can be peacefully dissolved, so Dara explains that it's possible through an agreement with the Master and Demon, but Right and Left don't want to end their contract with Yura since it allows them to move freely. They warn Ken to be careful since not all demons are as good as them, and they reveal that Seal can turn straight demons into their relic forms while Break can set them free. Dara returns the granny to the town and tells her to give his regards to Asima, but she decides to quit since her job is too dangerous. Dara tells Ken to share everything he knows, but he explains that he doesn't know where Yura's parents are and notes that he can't even find Roy. Dara realizes he's just as clueless as they are and explains that the house is a demon, but it doesn't belong to him since its contract is with Roy. Ken notes that his father left him with his mother, but she died the other day, so he had to survive on his own. He thought he needed demons to protect him, so he formed a contract with Tanaga and Ashinata, but they turned out to be evil, so he trapped them in the lost house. Dara reveals that he inherited his job a decade ago, which is around the same time Yura's parents left the village, but he notes that he hasn't heard from Roy since and he thinks Roy dumped the family business on him so that he can start a new family. Ken reveals that he didn't talk about work, but whenever he got drunk, he complained about Yura's mother, Nagisa, who blackmailed him into telling her how to escape Agashur. Ken shows them the passbook his mom left him, and notes that it should cover their living expenses, but Hannah realizes it hasn't been updated in years, so she tells Dara to go to the bank. Dara returns home, and as he shows Hannah the money in Ken's bank account, she realizes it's a ridiculous amount, so she tells him he can stay there for as long as he wants. She thinks Roy has been depositing money into the account, so she tells Dara his dad is amazing, but he explains that his father never helped him financially. He notices there are recent deposits, so he thinks his father is still alive, but thinks they can't find him since they don't have a picture of him. Ken reveals that his mother worked at a bar, but her friends don't know anything about Roy, so Dara thinks he should go back to Agashur to ask around. As they prepare to sleep, Ken notes that he feels guilty since his bed is better than Yura's, even though he's just a freeloader. Yura tells him it's okay since he's Dara's half-brother and hopes they find his dad soon. He notes that he needs to tell his father about his mother's death and he starts to cry and hopes they also find Yura's parents. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. But the story doesn't end here. More twists, battles, and surprises await. Subscribe to Recapverse and join us for the next chapter. Until then, thanks for watching.